What was the cringiest thing you did in your first relationship? Once a girl I had an off and on crush on since kindergarten wrote I love you on my notebook when I was 14. I freaked out and told her best friend I had an arranged marriage overseas. When her name got called for attendance. The first time I kissed a guy I was 18 years old. Up until then my only exposure to kissing was from sex scenes in shows movies. So when we started making out, in public, in the sub at our uni, I made moaning noises because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. God, I hate myself. I can't even look at him anymore. I just see idiot me moaning like an arsehole. Early in my current relationship, neither myself nor my girlfriend wanted to be the first to say I love you. In Catholic middle school, my religion teacher used to always tell us love the person, hate the sin. So for the longest time, I told my girlfriend I love you, but I hate your sin. And she did the same. Thank you for reminding me of this. I had a crush on her in high school but didn't know how to talk to girls. So I dyed my hair and grew a mullet to get her attention. I guess I was thinking courting was like how animals do it in the wild or something. Like peacocks. I called my first BF's home every night. Multiple times if he wasn't home when I called earlier. These were days before cell phones were super common, so it was a landline shared by the whole family, which made it even more embarrassing because the whole freaking family knew I was calling. Once I finally got him on the phone, I'd talk about anything and everything. He'd rarely say a word, which made me talk more to fill the silence. I'm now convinced that he'd put the phone down and play video games while I talked into the air for an hour or 2. Or 3. I had a crush on a girl, and after years of innocent flirting I didn't know how to take the next step, so one day I text her I love them big ol' boobies of yours, and she never spoke to me again. I still cringe thinking about it. It was just so out of the blue. I was just so stuck in this innocent flirting mode and didn't know how to take the next step, so one day I just decided I would take a trust fall and I fell flat and hard, lol. I didn't know how to break up with someone. The obvious solution was to get them to break up with me by becoming slowly more and more awful to them until they broke up with me. In woodworking class. If you don't start being nicer to me, I might break up with you. Okay. For some reason I pretended like I didn't ever eat. I would never eat around them. It makes me cringe to think about it now. This reminds me of my freshman year of college when I became friends with these 3 guys. 2 of whom lived in a condo together. I'd hang out at their places for hours. But I didn't want to use their bathroom because I'm a lady. So I'd leave when I couldn't hold it in anymore and use the first public bathroom I came across. I thought they didn't know. One day one of them shows me to the bathroom furthest away from the living room. Turns on the light, fan, and faucet. Hands me a can of air freshener. And told me to please feel free to use their bathroom. What's a potato? She and I did that thing where if we texted each other and used a smiley face or put a period, we immediately assumed the other person was in a crappy mood. A fight would quickly ensue. Because of emojis and punctuation. I wish I could slap myself in the past. I was 13. He was 14. We would make these dumb ducking video stories with TTY green screens, and I know he still has the videos around somewhere but refuses to show me due to cringe, lol. Though, I think the one that takes the cake is the time we went to see a TTY rom-com in theaters. But his mom insisted on not leaving us alone. She sat in the row behind us and would TSK every time he would try to put his arm around me. Wow, his mom sounds like a bitch. I wore a floor-length leather jacket to our first date because the Matrix was really cool at the time. Edit. Glad to see that I wasn't the only one digging the Matrix look. To answer some questions. I was 15 at the time. My mum bought it for me from a leather shop in Glasgow, which makes the story either better or worse. Your choice. There was no second date. And to all the people quoting Sunny in Philadelphia and Grandma's Boy. Yes. I have robot legs and no. I didn't burn the duster. Congrats on the SX. I was too clingy and insecure. He would hang out with his friends and I'd text him. Hi. Do you remember me? I was just a psycho bitch. I would not date my younger self. We were each other's first real boyfriend-girlfriend. Met as new freshmen during orientation week at our university. Gave each other a disgusting amount of very dark, very visible hikeys during a week where we'd be meeting a ton of new people, including academic advisors and RAs. Oh man. And those RAs and advisors knew exactly what was up. We weren't official yet, so when he held my hand in public I told him we can only do it for 5 seconds at a time and I would literally count down. Out loud. The seconds. Yeep. We still joke about it and I still cringe. You guys. A thread has been so healthy for me. Never have I ever felt so secure in who I am as a person. Because. Whoa. I may have been a cringy little shitty back then. But Jesus Christ. Guys. Thank you all so much for sharing all these stories. This has been immensely cathartic. Not talk. At all. Only texted. I was pretty emotional. I thought relationships were like the movies. Every moment was supposed to be schmoozy. Made a complete idiot out of myself. There was this guy that I used to make out with that lived on a lagoon. We knew another person that lived nearby. So we could use her paddle boat to pass by the back of his house. We didn't see him out in the yard. So desperate and hormone-fueled young me starts yelling his name to see if he'd come out. This was pre-cell phones. I yelled and yelled for a long time. Doing circles in the paddle boat. And the friend I was with was like, dude. Give it up. He's not home. But he was home. He told us later that his whole family was sitting down to eat and heard me screaming his name over and over like a ducking cat in heat. So embarrassing. I spent hours making half-heart necklaces out of perilla beads. One for each of us. That we could both wear to signal that we were committed to each other. I asked out my crush over text and she said yes, so I replied with congratulations. You just upgraded to boyfriend package. I still wake up in cold sweat in the middle of the night thinking about that. Edit. For all those people who say this isn't cringy. I forgot to mention after we broke up she made fun of me all through high school for doing that. If a text went unanswered for more than 5-7 minutes, I would hit resend. Again and again. And this was like 2007, so phone plans were not what they are now and I was using my mom's, which had no texting included. Poor guy and poor parents' phone bill. Gave her all of my stuffed animals. Like. Brought them all to school. OP said cringe. I introduced her to my friends by giving her a standing lap dance while she slapped my ass. No idea why I did that. It was just one of those times where you're like, well, I already started. Might as well go all the way. Driving back from the drive-in theater. She takes her bra off under her shirt because it is uncomfortable, and my next move? Turn on my Barenaked Ladies CD and recite all of 1 week. Ex asked to see me pee. Proceeded to show him a video of me doing it. He then said he was disgusted and that he was joking. Edit. To clarify, I didn't have videos of me peeing on my phone. I made a video for him since he asked. That sounds more like his bad. Maybe he just wanted to see if you'd do it? Because if that's a joke, it's not a great one. Went out for a week freshman year. Don't remember speaking to her during that week. This was less a relationship and more a crush. He was walking me to the subway station. And I wanted to hold his hand. I reached for it and he just kind of kept his hand stiff. So I walked with him with our palms flat against each other's. Held out in front of us. Why 15-year-old me? Why? We were kissing and I had a bit of a stuffy nose. I breathed into her mouth. A few times. Edit. Burped in a girl's mouth making out while all of our friends were next to us pretending to be asleep, and I tried to pretend it didn't happen but it was so bad. I sat in the car with her for an hour debating whether I should kiss her. I debated out loud too. No joke. I was literally like, I could kiss you now. But should I? Whenever we had sex, I kept my hat on. Butt naked with a bright white hat. Thrusting like there was no tomorrow. I was 13. My first boyfriend and I would text 24/7. And for every text we sent each other we would end it with a comma, and if we were mad at each other for some reason we would end the text with a comma instead of a comma. So weird. We were 16 and we both loved sushi. After payday we'd go to our favorite spot and feed sushi to each other for hours. One roll at a time. Oh yeah. I almost forgot. We would kiss each roll before shoving it into the other's mouth. Edit. Great. Now this is how I make my mark on Reddit. To answer a few replies. No, we weren't fat. I am white. She was Asian. Not that it matters. We made it 6 years before it ended, and although some were cringy, I have tons of sweet memories from this time in my life. But still. Lots of cringe. What kind of weeb hell am I in? My first one. He broke up with me and I started bawling for a good hour while he hugged me. Poor dude probably just wanted to home. My first serious one. I never talked to him. Because I was shy. But we made out at school every day in front of everyone. God. I ducking hate teenage me. Planned out what I was going to say before I kissed her for the first time the next time we hung out. It was something along the lines of, I wish you were a clock because when I look at you, I want time to slow down. She was not prepared and I was given a statue for my first kiss. I broke up with him over text message and 3 days later I asked him to get back together and he said no. I cried and he still said no. We continued to see each other as friends with benefits, which basically was he could see other girls and I could only see him. This lasted about 3 years, and when he started seeing other girls I would message them pretending to be him, telling them to duck off. I was in a terrible place. Total cringe. Asserted my dominance over one of my arsehole teachers by grabbing my girlfriend's ass outside his room and making eye contact with him through the window while we made out. Edit. This post is a pronoun salad. After I had an orgasm during sex with him. We were laying next to each other in bed and I sort of tapped his hip with the back of my hand. He asked what that was and I said it was a thank you tap. He didn't really respond. But a few days later, after I gave him oral, he tapped my back the same way. So it ended up kind of being our thing. But it was very cringy for me the first time. Sang an Aerosmith song to her. Dude looks like a lady. I tried to impress her friends by smoking a cig through my nose. They were not amused. I texted her in the morning. Good morning, sunshine. The earth says hello. Immediately regretted that one. The mix CD cringe was real. Way too real. Ours poured into the cheesiest cheese I could think of. Get mad every time he hung out with his friends. I was so ducking controlling. We were 15 and wanted to have sex, but we didn't have any condoms. Like any logical human. I put a Ziploc bag and a rubber band around my DCK. Wasn't very nice for either of us. Boy. It happened on my first date with my current girlfriend, who also happens to be my first. We were driving to a restaurant in my Mini Cooper when a lifted F-150 passed us and she goes, uncompensating much? Then I promptly say, haha, that's why I drive a Mini Cooper, it's reverse compensation. She then just says okay in a weirded out sort of way, and we sat in awkward silence for the next 30 seconds. I thought it was rather clever, and she is the cringe for not getting your first class humor. I bawled my eyes out lying on the floor begging her to stay after she told me she had cheated several times and then broke up with me. He was 14 and I was 13. I was young. Dumb and thought I was in love. We were in the kitchen with my mom and at least one of my stepsisters. My mom is doing something at the counter and my boyfriend stands behind her. Pulls his DCK out and says, "Hey mom. What flavor is this?" She turns around and I've never seen her turn back around so quick. I don't remember the conversation following. This was 11 years ago, but although I thought it was weird and felt uncomfortable about that, I laughed it off. Did I mention how dumb I was? It was cringy on both sides, but more so on his part. Edit. Thanks everyone for making this cringy moment my most upvoted comment. Many people seem perplexed about him calling her mom. He actually said her name when this went down, but he called her mom many other times. All of my friends have just called her mom, so that was normal for her. I bit her clitoris while eating her out. Edit. I don't recall if it was a nibble or a chomp, because we were drunk on her bathroom floor while her grandma was next door. She didn't audibly yelp, but she told me she wouldn't let me eat her out anymore if it happened again. It was an accident. I don't even know why it happened, tbh. It's been over for a while now. I'm posting this on behalf of my girlfriend. I drove up to see her, 500 miles. Just like the song. And we got pizza. Well, for some reason she peels the cheese off of the pizza like a psychopath. Doesn't even eat the pizza. Just dissects it. It was like when Dwight cut the face off the CPR dummy. Turns out she was too nervous to eat. She made me say that. She's right here. Blink twice if you need help. First relationship. 14 years old. With the girl for a few weeks. And decide it's time to find out what's under her pants. Watched PRN before, so I knew. But you know, never touched it. Touched it. Audibly said wow. It's squishy. She still brings it up 15 years later. We're still friends. We're married now. Don't ask me how the duck. But out of the cringiest things we did was 1. We had no ducking clue how to French kiss. So we kinda twirled our tongues around for a while. And sometimes he had a habit of holding a drink inside of his mouth. And then passing it into mine. Totally snowballing before we even knew what that was. 2. I'm not allowed to bring this up because he twitches in embarrassment. Even though I try to tell him we're literally not the only ones who have ever done this. But before having sex for the first time, we waited for about a year or so. We used to dry hump. A lot. He's so ashamed. Whenever I bring this up he'll cover his face and cringe so hard he twitches all over. But seriously. I've heard a lot of couples that went through the dry hump phase before becoming sexually active. Not me, but my girlfriend. She nicknamed my penis MR. Sprinkles and kept telling our friends about it. She was 4 years older than me and a TA at my high school. The whole thing was so messed up. I was beyond jealous. Always accusing and getting angry over nothing. Looking back, I DK how she put up with it. I regret how I acted 100%, and I'm almost positive if I hadn't been such a DCK we might even still be together. To make it worse, I broke up with her. She was devastated and upset for a long ass time, and again I was an inconsiderate douche. Years later we reconnected and both still had feelings, but I still hadn't grown up and couldn't look past that never even happened. Don't be jealous. If there's a legitimate reason, talk about it. Don't jump to conclusions on your own. Throwaway account. I lost my virginity to my first girlfriend in the cringiest way possible. We were in missionary position, and the moment I penetrated her, I kind of fell on top of her softly and cried out, "There. I gave it to you." It being my virginity. I don't know why, but I was emotional about it. Yeah. I cringe extremely hard whenever I think about that moment. Edit. Obligatory wow, I did not expect this response. I'm glad a lot of you got a good laugh out of it. Just to answer a couple of questions. I was freshly 16 at the time, and thankfully, my ex-girlfriend didn't care at all. Hopefully she never remembers that moment because it's seared into my brain. Told my elementary school boyfriend that I loved him on AIM. His mom then logged onto his account to tell me that I need to stop and that it was inappropriate. One of us would take swigs of Mountain Dew before we made out and then trade it to the other. It via mouth. Like cum swapping but with Mountain Dew. Don't ask me why I'm still weird as duck. I spit into his mouth. Granted, we both did this but I cringe more at myself. We would make out and start getting playful. And one day he just spit into my mouth. I was extremely disgusted at first. And then I did it back as revenge. Just evolved from there as a playful, gross thing we did. Young love. When I was 14, I stood outside for my then girlfriend for like 2 hours just to see her come outside. She thought it was creepy and we broke up after 2 days. Edit. I just remembered this. I got on one knee to ask her to date me. As if I was ducking marrying her. I suppressed that memory for a while. Duck. Second edit. Holy cow, 20k votes. Glad to know that knowing absolutely nothing about girls got me invisible points on the internet. Thanks everyone. Watching LOTR with my ex. Things were getting heated between us while we were watching. While in the moment, I proceeded to say it's Bilbo's time now, referring to my penis. I love you. But I'm not in love with you. Kill me. NSFW. After giving him head, we high-fived. Every time. I don't like to think of those times. Brujub. Choo choo. These responses worry me because I haven't been in a relationship yet, so I don't know how I'm going to make a fool of myself, lol. I was 16 when I had my first serious GF. 2 weeks in. We were already planning our wedding. The next week I see her sitting at our spot with a different guy. In 9th grade, me and my first boyfriend were making out in the movies and a woman in the same theater got up and told an employee and the employee had to coke up to use to tell us to stop. Back in 2006. Grade 9. First GF ever. Lectured her on human nature and on how girls are naturally more submissive. Then in 2nd year university. Finally met a cute girl at the rock climbing club. Got closer and chat a lot. One day, she went out for a party. I didn't know and found out. Got super worried when she didn't reply to my text. Sent her like 8-10 texts asking what she doing and where she was, is she safe. I was the ultimate on a Segway or our neck, but back then. Maybe both. These memories haunt my dreams at night. Okay, so I already posted one. But I was reminded of something else. The first time I touched my ex's vagina. She didn't let me see it. But the lips felt squiggle shaped. So I immediately after asked her why are they so squiggly. She busted laughing.